All right, so I got a 2003 F150 with the 5.4 Triton motor. So it's got a misfire. Come from a tow truck company that also does a little bit of repairs. Said they didn't want to mess with it, but it had coolant down in cylinder number 1. After talking to him, he described it. At first they said it was down inside the cylinder, but it's actually in the coil tube, spark plug tube, which is kind of a common thing on these with coolant leaking, going down in there. Also, they have a problem with water getting down in there from coming off that back seal. But let's get into it, let's diagnose it, let's find out what's actually happening, and verify cylinder 1 and everything like that. All right, first thing I want to do is scan for codes. Let's go ahead and see what these are. Fewer than 2 transmitter program. That's not going to be anything with a misfire. Door jar, vehicle speed, sensor, wiper selection, instrument cluster, oil pressure switch error. This code may be invalid. Okay. PCM, here we go. Ignition coil A, primary circuit fault. Okay, so we know it's on the ignition side just by reading that. EGR, 2 less flow. That's not typically going to cause a misfire only on cylinder 1. EGR, sensor A, okay, we can look at that later. System 2 lean, bank 1. Okay. Misfire detected in cylinder number 1. Misfire detected at start. Okay. So basically, we have misfire cylinder 1 like he said. System 2 lean. Okay. You can get a lean code from a misfire. So system 2 lean. So a misfire can trigger a lean condition. And since it's on bank 1, I'm going to say that lean condition's due to cylinder 1 misfire. What happens is the O2 sensors read the oxygen level. And if you're not burning that fuel, having any ignition source, it's going to be a lot of basically clean oxygen coming out of that cylinder, going down through the exhaust, and your upstream O2 sensor is going to pick up on that and say, hey, there's too much air, we're lean. And so if you looked at fuel trims, yeah, let's take a look at the fuel trims so we can note that. So when we fix our cylinder misfire, we can watch this go back down to 0, just to confirm that it's going to fix your lean condition too. But all that oxygen, extra oxygen, goes to that upstream O2 sensor, and it thinks that there's too much air, which there is too much air. So then you'll get positive fuel trims because it's trying to add fuel to compensate for it. But we don't need more fuel. We need it to fire. So let's go down that rabbit hole. So of course, we can't just trust the code. So we're going to actually go into special functions, and it's going to be engine power balance monitoring. So we're going to monitor power balance, and basically another word for it can be engine contribution, cylinder contribution test. And basically it's going to see what cylinders are contributing what amount, and the cylinder that's contributing the less, you're going to see a V shape on there because it's not contributing as much. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Hit OK. I can hear it and feel the mist. Oh, right there. Bet you can tell which one it is. That one right there. So if we look, it is cylinder number 1. The rest of them are contributing about even. I don't know what's going on there. Cylinder 8. I think that's just due to the cylinder number 1 misfiring like that. So now that we've determined that it's currently misfiring, first thing I'm going to do is swap the 2 coil packs from cylinder 1 to the cylinder next to it, and also the spark plug, and we'll see if it jumps to the new cylinder. If it does, then it's the coil pack or spark plug. If it does not, then we have something else going on with the ignition system. And other vehicles, you could have something going on with fuel injector or a bunch of different things. But since we have that primary ignition circuit code, we're going to suspect that it's not getting sparked. We're going to check that though after we swap the coil. I always mark the suspected bad coil with a paint pen or something, just so you don't accidentally get them mixed up. And I also mark the spark plug. when I do spark plugs, I break it loose. And then I've got an old spark plug boot I've had for years, many, many years. That I put down in there on it and spin it out. All right, so I swapped them, fired it back up, checked it on that graph, still had cylinder 1 misfire, which means coil and spark plug are good. I did find a little bit of green on the spark plug boot and stuff. I cleaned it off too, just to make sure. But we still have cylinder 1 misfire, which means we've got something else going on. We're gonna need to check and see if we have spark at all now. And if we don't, we're gonna have to find out why, because it's gonna be in the wiring or computer or something. So let's check the spark. All right, so there's a bunch of different ways to check spark. I got this, just a little spark tester with a light bulb in it. Hooked this side to ground. So I got that run off, hooked to ground, and I got the coil pack plugged in. Let's fire it up and see if we got any light there. If we have a light that flashes, we know we're getting spark, but I'm suspecting we ain't gonna get anything. Well, we do have spark. Looks like good spark too. Well, now I'm stumped. We got spark and we have an ignition circuit code. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Because it started to get a little confused because we've got, okay, let's see if you can see it. P0351. And it's a ignition coil A primary circuit fault. Well, what that code refers to is there's a primary and a secondary on your ignition system and cylinder number 1. And then I have a cylinder 1 misfire. So you could assume that the problem's in the ignition system. And then when I found that I had spark, I had plenty of spark, it looks good. I swapped again, just to make sure maybe I got them mixed up. I swapped from an entirely different cylinder, another coil and another spark plug to that cylinder, and it still has cylinder 1 misfire. So that's telling me that it's not in the ignition system, which if you ever have a cylinder misfire and you have the coil A primary circuit on the same cylinder, then almost always it's going to be ignition on that cylinder. What I think might have happened is, since this was at a different shop, they probably had it unplugged and went to fire it up or something. I'm thinking they triggered that code. So I'm gonna check freeze frame data to see if maybe it says when it was triggered. But I looked real quick and I couldn't find anything on that code on the freeze frame. But we're gonna erase the codes and then start diagnosing like a normal cylinder misfire on that cylinder. All right, now, so we swap the coils, spark plugs, still no change. We're gonna check an injector. I've got this tool here. I'm gonna show you a different way to test it also, if you ain't got nothing like this. I don't think these are expensive. I bought it many years ago. But it's gonna check the, it can feel the bumps on the injector opening and closing. And it can, you don't have to go invasive in wires or nothing. You just put that right on the body of the injector and we'll see what happens. We're gonna go to a known good one. I don't know if you can see that or hear that, but that's a good injector. Again, now we're going to cylinder number 1. Nothing. Checking a different spot on it. Nothing. So we got something going on with the injector or wiring to the injector. Well, let me show you, if you ain't got them fancy tools, you can pick this up at Harbor Freight for nothing. So, we're just gonna do the same thing, probe it, and we're gonna listen to the injector. Okay, So on the injectors that we were seeing that light flash, I can hear real loud audible click, 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 the same speed as that light. On the bad injector, I can still hear it at the same speed, but it's barely there, barely there. That's going to tell us injector or wiring. So next thing we got to do is check the wiring. How you're supposed to check the wiring is using a Noid light, and it's got the correct amount of resistance in it and stuff like that. You don't typically want to use a test light with it running. If you do, you can potentially damage the engine control module. So use a Noid light. We're just gonna. So what we got a power at all times, and we know the fuse and stuff's good because we only have it on this one cylinder. But if there's a break in the wire from that injector to the splice where it connects to all of them, we'll see it with the test light. So basically, we're going to check that circuit. We're checking the power circuit now. Verify our test light's working. You use a little T-pin to go probe into the wire. On this particular one, the red wire, there's the power. We're going to turn the key on. And we got a real bright light. So we've got a good power. So now we're going to check the ground side. The computer pulses the ground for the fuel injection, for the fuel injector. So we're going to switch over. That's going to be a tan wire, and we're going to switch this to our power. Verify the test light's good. Now we're going to start it up, and we're going to see if it pulses the light. Well, to me it looks dim. We're going to check the one next to it. That's also dim. So both injectors on the ground side looks dim. That's typical because we don't have a Noid light. If we had a Noid light, it would be bright. So if you're really not sure, it's easy to do. You can swap the injector and see if the misfire follows. But we've got power. We've got the same dimness on the ground, the pulsing ground from the engine control module. We're going to put an injector in it. It's going to be an injector. Let's do that. Let's call a customer. Before we do that, though, we're going to have to pressure test the coolant system because it said he had coolant down here. So we're going to see where the coolant's leaking from. And then these intakes have a crossover tube, and they're typical to crack and cause a leak, and it can drain down the cylinder. So we're going to pressurize the coolant system, check for the leak. He may be getting an intake and a fuel injector. All right, here's the pressure tester. If you don't have one of these, you can go to O'Reilly or any of the parts stores to rent them to you. You pay for it, take it, use it. When you bring it back, they give you all your money back. So typically, you want to pump it up. You see the cap says 16. You want to pump it. I always pump it around 15. But check your cap, because if something says like 13, you don't want to go too high. All right. We pumped it up. Sometimes that needle won't move, but we're going to inspect that area and see if we got anything leaking there. All right. After pressure testing it, there's a very, very slight coolant leak. It might be hard to see here. See how it's wet right there? That's the crossover pipe. It attaches to the plastic intake. So it is leaking. I find it hard to believe that filled up that cylinder, but that's what they told me from the other shop. Filled up the, not the cylinder, but the spark plug tube hole where the coil pack goes down in it. And usually that is what would cause the misfire. It may have also been contributing to it. But this is definitely the fuel injector. So we're gonna get an new intake put on it, fuel injector O-rings, and we'll see how she does after. All right, so I want to show you one more thing. Set the meter to ohms. This is the fuel injector that is bad. You can see I marked it with the yellow paint. We're going to check the resistance of the coil inside of it. You can see what we got there. Basically 1,000 ohms. See the K. Now let's check a injector that was next to it. We got 12.8. So that's just also another way you can check them. You're not always going to get a bad reading ohm testing it. That's why I typically don't do it, but we check the wiring and stuff, and if that's good, then you know you got a failed injector, because we listened to it and it wasn't clicking very much. So all right, so we finished the job. We put an intake on it due to the coolant leak over there in that corner by cylinder 1, and then we did the fuel injector also on cylinder 1 because the fuel injector was bad. And let's fire it up and see what we got. This is always the moment of truth. So seems like it's on time. Oh yeah, he's smooth. Well, that's what you want to see right there. Cylinder 5 kind of pumped down a couple times, but that's typically normal. You're going to see a few here and there, but it's pretty much a straight flat line. We'll let it run here and idle and warm up. We'll just keep monitoring, make sure everything's good. Then what we'll do is we'll leave it sit here and idle for a while, and then we'll go back and scan for codes and stuff, and compare them to our initial codes and see if there's anything different that was there that maybe be a cause. But usually, if you take the time, pay attention, you usually don't have any issues. So I'd say that fixed her.